Hey guys, welcome to another episode of All Bass Creations, Effects, Tutorials, Demos, and Review. So, we got a few new things up here today. Let's go ahead and get to talking about it a bit. If you haven't already hit that like button for me, I greatly appreciate you, hanging out with me. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to get to them. Feel free to say hi. Feel free to chime in where you're from, all that good stuff. So let's start with just what we got going on here. So pretty much this pedal board here that you see is my main rig for either my solo gigs or my actual band gigs that I do. So one of the things that kind of bothered me last week, I had a gig with my band. I did a trio gig. What's going on, folks? Appreciate you chiming in. It was, I didn't actually bring the keyboard and stuff because, one, I didn't have everything set up like I do now. And two, I didn't want to have to do too much. You never want to do too much for what they're giving you. You know what I'm saying? Mind you, I got paid well, but, I was getting paid to give my bass show, but I do want to start incorporating keys more because I use a trio or a duo a lot. Thank you for subscribing. I definitely appreciate you over on Facebook. Thank you. And who is that? What's that? Franz. Appreciate you. So, but I want to give the best show that I have intended to give, right? So one of the main things I want to do is be able to play keys and stuff, or just have certain things designed for when I do have pianists come in, certain sounds. I don't expect people to come into my band and have every piece of gear that I have. So I try to make it so like, all right, bam, you just use this and this will get you the exact sounds. You can just play the parts the way you would like. So what you're hearing right now is actually the iPad. And shout out to gospel musicians. They didn't send me this app. I actually bought this app, but it's only $12.99. And the EP sounds amazing. So what I'm running, I had to get I have what's this? AUM running on here, which is like an iPad mixer. And that's running this Neo Soul Keys app, which is Neo, I think this is version 2, I believe. And I've created this EP patch on there. So part of what you're hearing is the motif as well. Let me just mute the motif. So this is the EP. I love the way this joint sounds. This is some of the best sounding EP, and the one on the computer sounds even better. Sounds amazing, right? And mind you, I'm not even using the sustain pedal. So, you know, I'm actually using one of my MIDI controllers to control the sustain. And so I have a few things down here on the floor I'll explain in a minute. But, you know, all this is so I can bring as minimum as possible to the gig while playing multiple instruments like this. So one thing less I have to do is bring a sustain pedal for the MIDI controller. MIDI controller is really light, you know. And so that's the keys by itself. I also have a couple different patches programmed here. Let's see, go to user, bam. Yeah, got a nice little piano. I bought the piano pack as well. Technology is crazy now. Like the fact that you can just have that right in your iPad. And the AUM app allows me to have multiple apps together and things like that. I'm running a X-Tone Pro down here on the floor, which is the audio interface and the MIDI interface for the iPad that I'm using. And it also has 6 foot switches on it, stereo in, stereo out, line in, stereo line out. It also has an XLR combo jack for the right side if you want to use a mic input. Has headphone out, which is what you're listening to. I have the headphone out running to the auxiliary in on the Digitech Jam Man Solo. So if I want to loop any of my piano stuff, or it's all right there, as well as if I want to play the Enzo X in conjunction with it. So, you know, you got all that stuff right there available to you. So those are pretty much the 2 main patches I use. Also created a Mark and that's the Enzo X and the Mercury X, along ToneX ones running the so Enzo X, ToneX ones, Mercury X, right? And the ToneX ones are running a JHS Color Box V2 tone model, the same one on each one. And what that allows me to do is basically have stereo color boxes. You know what I'm saying? Instead of having, to get another color box, I'm already talking through one right now, this one on the desk. I can multiply that with the ToneX ones. Now I got, and because I have the MIDI setup I have the same foot switch that's controlling the sustain for the keys. It's also controlling the envelope for the Enzo X through the expression, through MIDI. I believe there's CC message 4 on the Enzo X, and on the Mercury X, I'm also controlling the hold modifier. So, right, all that's being controlled, that sustain, and all that. And on the Mercury X, I have it so the decay gets longer with the hold modifier on. So basically through MIDI, it allows me to condense my setup while making it more efficient for myself. Because that same switch, I can also use when I want to play things on my bass. Say I wanted to use that sound on my bass. So I can use the same sound on my bass that I'm using on the Enzo X, of course, because the Enzo X allows you to it automatically switches between the audio input and the MIDI input. So that's amazing, right? But over here, before we get back to that real quick, get too far, we have back to the iPad real quick, just so you can get that set up out the way. I have the motif over here running MIDI as well for when I need it. And all this is running through the same stereo canvas line isolator right here. So all the signal, the bass signal, bass chain, right? It's all active at once, right? It's all active. And just in case you're wondering, this is what the motif sounds like by itself. I created a pad on the motif, love this pad. You had that with the EP. And I do have a mixture of wireless MIDI and wired MIDI setup here. So let me go ahead and explain all of that real quick. So the motif and the iPad are on wired motif from the let's just start here. Let's start from the top. All right, so let's walk through the pedal board real quick, just so you guys will know the actual signal chain from my bass, because that's where everything really starts. Right. So first up, we have this T-Tone $40 Amazon looper here. This is 3 different effects loops: green, red, and blue. So green is where audio comes in out of my bass, comes into here. Bam. Green loop is just the Empress compressor. Red loop is the Future Impact bass synth in Hog 2. And the blue or third loop is the Deep Freeze Key 9, Male 9, Rabbit Sitar V256 vocoder. And then back into the effects loop, right? And so I have it like that. So if I would like to get rid of, or not, I don't like to always have all these pedals in my chain, you know what I'm saying? Even though all these are true bypass, you know what I'm saying? I just don't. I just would rather take all that extra cabling out. And if anything goes wrong while I'm performing, I can easily just get that up out the way. You know what I'm saying? Let me make sure we on track here. Yep. So with that being said, come out the effects loop, straight into the Enzo X, into the and the Enzo X, coming into the Enzo X is mono, but leaving out is stereo. So from the Enzo X on is going to be stereo. I have the 2 ToneX ones, and those are left and right. Right. Even though I know that's not in, it's no particular order. I mean, this is the left side, this the right side. I just kept it simple for myself so I can organize it. What's going on? Appreciate you chiming in. Feel free to ask questions if I'm losing y'all anywhere on this stuff. And then we got the Mercury X, which is running stereo into the Jam Man Solo HD, which has all my loops and stuff. Like I was using using this at the gig the other day. So yeah, basically, and then have my rest of my trio fill it out. I used a trumpet player named Alex Parchment and a drummer named Terrence Arnett. Both of them amazing musicians. Definitely appreciate them, coming and hanging out with me on the gig. But pretty much, we just took that, those 3 different loops, you know, that's pretty much the whole song. So, you know, you got the chorus, verse, and then chorus, verse, and then chorus, and then bridge. And then you pretty much in the vamp from there, do whatever you want. So, you know, having things like that makes my life a lot easier as a band leader, an artist, soloist. You know, if I wanted to fill that out on a solo gig, I could as well. And I just would record the parts, the rest of the parts, you know, the bass part, drum part, and then also would allow me to then solo and do everything else I want to do from there. All right. So, yeah, and then to the Canvas stereo line isolator right there. All right, so that's the whole top of the pedal board, the audio side of it. Now, the power side of it is this whole power board, pedal board rather, and this MIDI controller and the MIDI device underneath are all powered by the Canvas Power 15. So one outlet, you know, one plug powers this whole board. And then all I have to do, and one power supply at that. So it's 15 9-volt, 500 milliamp outputs, isolated outputs. And I could daisy chain. Say I wanted to do more. I wanted to, you know, add more pedals to this. I could daisy chain another unit together. Or I can daisy chain the USB power, Canvas USB power together. But very quiet pedal board, nice. Keeps my signal very quiet and keeps, more importantly, it encourages me to take my pedal board out the house more because it's so light. You know, the power supply helps keep the pedal board very light, and it's very, you know, it's just a very straightforward setup. I mean, in terms of when I break this down, all I have to do is either unplug the XLRs from the Canvas audio and maybe some, if I'm running a couple amps, you know, running stereo or something, unplug those from the Canvas stereo line isolator, unplug my bass from here, unplug that one power plug, and I'm pretty much out the door. Oh, I would have to unplug the MIDI devices as well, you know, the things that are connected to it, like the MIDI controller, throw that cable on top. The rest of the stuff I can leave hooked up. Even this MIDI controller here, which I'll talk about in a minute, get to the MIDI side. But yeah, so even this is powered by the Canvas Power 15. So definitely, I think these are amazing units. Definitely worth checking out. But crazy with this setup here. This is just the audio side of things. I'll explain how I have everything set up, how I can switch everything like that, or how I can just not touch any of these buttons and have so much control. just making stuff like that easier for me to get to while I'm performing is always a challenge, just because, of course, with so many pedals and everything else, along with, the actual song, the actual parts, as well as leading the band. I also have two other people with me. So I have to think about that. I got to think about the clients and volume and everything else. So, I really try to have my presets really dialed in so I don't have to do a whole lot of bending down. And one thing I'm going to start doing is actually keeping it up on a keyboard stand. Like, this is just a keyboard stand underneath this pedal board here. I'm going to actually start taking that with me to have my pedal board up here. And then on the floor, I'll take a separate pedal board, medium size, about half the size of this bigger one. And that'll be my 3 controllers that pretty much control everything, along with this screen here. And so let's get to the MIDI. So how do I have this set up to where it's efficient like that? Well, for one, like I said, this looper helps. So if anything goes wrong from here, I can just take it out the loop. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pedals. I can instantly take out my loop and go straight to the Enzo X. And now I only have one. This is essentially one pedal. So 1, 2, 3, 4 pedals in my pedal chain, essentially. So underneath, what you can't see, in addition to the power supply, is the actual MIDI controller. So I have a CME H4 MIDI Pro, and it has the MIDI core in it. So it has wireless MIDI as well. So wireless Bluetooth MIDI. And it looks like this, a bigger version of this one. This is a H2 MIDI Pro. So this one only has 2 MIDI ports here, and a USB port and a USB-C port right here. So this is actually really useful, and if I didn't need the extra stuff, if I was just playing like, my pedal board for bass, this would have just been fine, and it was the brain for a while, but I also use this for other things now, so very useful. But the one I have underneath is, has 4 MIDI ports, so it does a little bit more in addition to the wireless capabilities. So now I have these a few. So in addition, so the pedals that are on MIDI are the Mercury X, Enzo X, the Future Impact V4 VIP, and the Hog 2. All those are running with MIDI presets. So it makes those particular pedals, especially like the Future Impact, I don't have to try to get to stuff, if I don't want to. And if I want to scroll, I have a way to do that as well. I'll get to that in a second. But so that allows me to control presets, which are PC commands in MIDI terms, and on each individual pedal. And then I can control parameters, which is CC messages in MIDI terms, which is control changes. So what all that allows me to do is basically control all this stuff in a reasonable amount of time. So, all right. So you got the H4 MIDI Pro underneath. I have a few things synced up to it. I have these WIDI masters set up. So while I have, let's just start there. The WIDI masters, I have one WIDI jack. I have 2 WIDI masters and 1 MIDI jack. All those are synced up to the H4 MIDI Pro, which is built in underneath the board. You know what I'm saying? I built that into the board. So I have MIDI ports built into the board, and just full MIDI network is, the brain of it is underneath the board. So everything is pretty much going to there and running through there MIDI-wise. From there, I have these amazing, I just got this in yesterday. So far it's been amazing. We got to see how things hold up as usual. I got this Luminite Graviton N1, which is a MIDI controller itself. It has MIDI ports in and out here. Wireless MIDI itself, even though I can't get it to sync to the MIDI core for some strange reason. But it has 2 TRS inputs for expression, and that allows it to you can assign those expressions to any of the parameters or any of the parameters on the different pedals, and you can assign it specifically to run to whatever pedal. So say I wanted to use the expression, the TRS1 input there, or whatever your input, I can route that to just the Hog 2 through MIDI and not have it control anything else. Or if I wanted to control the Enzo X and not the Mercury X, because they have the same CC message for expression, which is 118. So when I was using just the MIDI captain, I couldn't control where that expression pedal was going. If I put it on CC message 118, it would change the Enzo X and the Mercury X, because both of those expression pedals are on that message. So I had to set it up. I had to get something that would allow me to route that type of stuff. Plus, I wanted a screen. Like I said, I'm going to keep this up like this when I'm performing. It make my life easier, especially when I need to get to the looper visually. If I need to change anything on the pedals, it's way easier with it being up like this versus it being on the floor. So I use this screen here to kind of tell me exactly what preset I'm on. One of the other beefs I had with the MIDI captain was I couldn't name the presets. I couldn't see which preset is what. I had to memorize what pages and where the presets are on the page and everything else, or look at the actual pedals changing to see what the preset was. And that's a hassle on stage, you know? So I tried to make it as simple as possible. So now I also have the F10W foot switch to accompany the Luminite pedal here, and those sync wirelessly, and the foot switch is wireless, and it has a 6-month battery in it. That's crazy. So I don't have to charge that foot switch for 6 months, up to 6 months rather, you know, depends on how much you're using it. The MIDI captain I have down here on the floor as well. I have that wirelessly with the MIDI jack running to the MIDI core, and that also that is just, I'm now using that for just expression stuff. So remember that foot switch I was telling you guys about? Where I can just hold stuff. If I wanted to, let me pick a better preset. Showcase that. So now with one foot switch, I've now sustained the motif, the Neo Soul keys and the Enzo X and the Mercury X. So with one foot switch, I've now managed to freeze or hold all of that stuff at once, and it doesn't, you know, I'm not trying to play tap dancing or compromising. Oh, I can only hold the Mercury X, because if you're standing up, you got to have a leg, right? So, you know, it just becomes a lot. But this makes it so I can now like control all of that stuff at once. Just the Mercury, that Mercury X is frozen at the moment. That's what you hear swirling around. And the motif pad is holding as well. And the sustain on the key. As well as on the motif. so that things like that make your life so much easier. You wouldn't believe how much easier that is to do than than like this after. Of course it took a lot of setting up and knowing what you're doing, setting things up. But once it's set up, I can now do that. I can go from here. Changing the pads underneath. If I want to take the motif out. So this is one of the beautiful things about having this graviton and I do have it. Like I said, I was having trouble connecting. This does have wireless MIDI itself, but been having trouble getting it to connect to the WIDI devices, like the WIDI core, while I have the other devices connected. But I did manage to connect it to the the iPad and stuff like that. But so this pretty much has all my presets in it now. Now the MIDI Captain still does have presets and still can control presets if I wanted it to. Like even now, if I wanted it to change different presets with it, I could. So that's me tapping the MIDI Captain. Matter of fact, let me try to show you guys what I got going on here on the floor. So hopefully you guys can, I'm moving so like that. So this is the, let me see, sorry about that. This is the pedal board I have on the floor, and as you can see, it's just the MIDI Captain on the right, that blue pedal, and the silver one is the foot switches for the Graviton, the Luminite Graviton M1. So, I basically wanted the screen and the foot controller separately so I could see better when I'm on stage. And then I also have the Digitech foot switch for the looper down here as well. That's not wireless yet, but so that's not wireless yet, but it probably will be. So what I tend to do now with the MIDI Captain is just keep it on the page I have it set up for all the expression. So one foot switch is set up like that. Like I explained before, it's the sustain pedal, it's the expression for the MIDI controller, and which is the sustain pedal for the app, the Neo Keys app, and I can recommend that Neo Soul Keys app as well. Like I said. But that's part of that was Enzo X, but the joint sounds just like it. And that's from the iPad. That's crazy. That's crazy. But so I only plan on taking the iPad with me for the gig, so I only use that from now on. But well, for the remainder of the video, maybe. But now I'm just using the MIDI Captain, trigger and sustain from the keys. And the cool thing about the Neo Soul Keys app, you get your own like rack effects in here as well. So, you get what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. You get 10 rack effects, right? And then you get another 5 mastering effects for your sound. So that little app is very, very useful. And it's very stable, sounds good. And I'd recommend, you know, if this gonna be your little keys rig, go ahead and grab that piano. I was able to make a nice piano sound in there. And is that the best piano sound ever? No, but well, that does it sound as on par with keyboards that are out? Yeah, sounds about on par with a lot of stuff. Ain't not on that, but it's in your iPad. You don't have to really take much else. So for the iPad rig, all I'm taking is the iPad, the um, iPad charger. I need, gotta have this little adapter here, and the um, X Tone Pro. And the X Tone Pro, I can run that separate line to that. That's also a DI box within itself, so I can run straight XLR out from there, or I can run stereo line out from there, or I can do like I'm doing now, run from the headphone out to the Jam Man Solo HD, and now everything is running through the Canvas line isolator, and now I don't have to buy more than one line isolator. So you can't beat that. And that means even when you go out of town and stuff, you don't necessarily have to take um a million and one pieces of gear with you. You can leave the MIDI controller at home, and if you get backline at a gig or at a out of town or wherever, just tell them to give you a decent keyboard. You know what I'm saying? You run MIDI from there to the X Tone Pro, and then you just use your sounds that you want to use. You know what I'm saying? If you don't like the sounds that the keyboard they have there is using, or if you want to just use this and you want to keep it consistent. Like sometimes, even though you might like the sound of the keyboard there, it's not the sound that you may be trying to use the same sound that you used on a record or something. You might have used that on whatever the case. You know what I'm saying? But this makes your setup way easier. Um, and like I said, you just need any MIDI controller with that setup. So, bam. From there, you can also do like I'm doing with the motif, run a line out of the Enzo X. I mean the not the Enzo X, the X Tone Pro. Run the MIDI out from there to the motif. Then at that point you can use both. And most keyboards have the same, use CC message 64 for sustain. So if you want to, program a MIDI controller to do sustain, you can do that way. Then I have the So I have all of that set up on channel 3. So the Enzo X, the iPad, and the motif are all set up to receive all the note on, note off, velocity, all that stuff. But they filter. It's only thing that's filtered out through that MIDI line in the H4 MIDI Pro is the program changes. So I don't want it to change programs when I have the Enzo X change. And if I have, that's the only thing I need to change. Like I can do everything else from here. The iPad's right here. I can just bam, click a button and then switch to the 2 or 3 patches I'm using on there. Or if I need to mute a channel, it's not hard to do. So now back over to the Graviton M1. We're just gonna call it the M1. We'll go to the preset library, and I have this set up different pages for different things. So the first page I have set up for my clean bass sounds. You see where everything is now. Right, all that you on, that ain't no clean bass sound, right? But so the entire first bank, and the thing, let's talk about how amazing this little controller is. This is the easiest thing to program MIDI wise. So if you're on the preset library, you just click on the preset like that, edit preset, and then you get up to 16 messages per preset. You can send up the messages 16 different pedals or 16 different parameter changes and preset changes all at once. Or you can do things like, and you can also chain presets together. So if you need more than 16 commands for something, you can have it basically hit one preset, and it'll also, right after it hit that one, it'll hit the other, preset as well. So that is amazing. That is very flexible. The routing is amazing, especially for everything you can just do with it. But so it took me no time to take my presets from the MIDI Captain and put them in here. So all my presets are now in the Luminite Graviton M1, and the whole first page is just regular bass stuff I would need. Right? So that's my clean tone, which is basically this preset is it tells it to bypass. I send a message to bypass the Hog 2, bypass the Future Impact V4 VIP, also bypass the Enzo X, go straight to the ToneX. So basically this signal chain like this, and then the Mercury X is what finishes the sound off. But you got Empress compressor, basically the ToneX ones, and then the Mercury X. And the Mercury X, when people don't talk about it, it's amazing. These Series X pedals are pretty much multi-effects units. So we have like limiting. I have like a limiter on here. No, a compressor on there, compressor link. So it compresses each side separately. Say I'm using some modulation effect or something on the Enzo X, it will deal with each side separately based on what is going on, versus the regular compressor on there compresses them both the same. So, excuse me. So, and I also use it has a preamp on there that I'm using, and the high pass filter on the Mercury X, which gives me amazing clarity. Without it, that was without it. With it, it's like it puts a microscope on your tone there, really shows off what your the actual tone of the thing you're putting into it. All right. So then, I also have like an envelope filter, and I have these next few effects set up to where if I press the button twice, it turns the effect on or off. So if I press it once, it turns it on. Press it again, turns it off. So basically it toggles it on and off as well. So not only does it send a message to turn off these two pedals, it sends a message to here to change this preset to the envelope filter, and as well as a message to the Mercury X to go to the preamp I use. It's called Negus preamp, of course, on the Mercury X. And it also sends a toggle message on and off for the bypass switch there. So I don't have to reach up and touch this if I don't want to. I can just turn it off there, use it for part of a song or whatever. So, yeah, you can get some really great, things done with this MIDI controller here. And here we have the chorus. And that's the chorus from the Enzo X. All these, the envelope filter, the modulations that you're hearing right now are all going to be from the Enzo X, along with everything else that you heard that I stated there. Beautiful chorus. Then you got flanger. Phaser. See, I can touch screen as well, so I can touch it or I can select it here. And I like the option to be able to do both, because it like when you're on stage, sometimes you're literally you even though you know what to do, you're in the middle of performing, so you panic just a little bit. But, you put it together. Even got my solo sounds here. This should be switching to... I think it's counting... Let me see something. I know why. Change this to 2. Bam. That's how easy it is to do what you're trying to do on here. Like, you can just change it. Ascending and descending. Let me see something. Oh, because of the thing. Okay. That is weird. So these are little things you just kind of try to figure out what's going on. Do I have it set up for toggling? Yeah. Let me see something. Why is that backwards? So for some reason with the hog, the 0 is on. Is that because I had the toggling on? Is that what that was? Let me see something. That's weird. Every time it kicks on, it's switching my PC for some reason. That's weird. Let me see if I delete this one. There we go. It's just a matter of figuring out. So it does take some time to set things up, and you got two different views here. You can have the block view or the list view. I prefer the block view. And I have the ToneX one space so I could press them both with one foot when I need to. So, you know, the idea is just to make your life simple on stage as possible, as simple as possible. So, you know, a lot of times I will try to keep all of these engaged, even though I don't really want all these pedals in my pedal chain all the time. When you performing, it's just a hassle. And then when I need to take stuff out, like if it's a problem, yes. But for the most part, you just leave them on. And I got access to stuff. All the physical buttons I have to press on the pedal board. You know, I try to have them easily accessible. I need to get to the key now. Mill 9. I even have it set up so I can scroll. So I can scroll different pedals presets. So if I want to try out different reverbs, I can do that backwards and forwards. And get to any of them like this. Now I can have a page set up just for the Mercury X presets that I need to get to immediately, but definitely press something. Oh. Sorry. That was my fault. So it just frees your hands up to do so much more. Just ridiculous. So first of all, Mercury X is crazy. If you haven't checked out the Mercury X, definitely it's worth the money. Ain't too many pedals. What's going on? Appreciate you chiming in. So, you know, it having things like that available to you make your life easier. So Hog 2 on this particular page, so page 4, or bank 4 rather, I have it so I can go up on the presets from the I can go up on the different presets on the Hog 2. And I also always have access to the freeze function on the MIDI captain through another CC message. And I also have access to the current expression mode through the MIDI captain as well, through a different button. Right? Or I can freeze it. I can use them both at the same time, which is something you can't do without MIDI. So, that is that when you're using MIDI with pedals like the Hog 2 and these other ones, it greatly expands the capability of them, because you can then make them really work together to create the sounds that you really want to get to. Nobody's buying these expensive pedals and stuff not to be able to get to these sounds on stage. That's the most important thing on stage, people. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can't get to the sound within a few seconds, you got maybe 3 to 5 seconds is a long time on stage to get to a sound. Like, you need to be able to, like, okay, all right, bam, bam, at a different sound. And you need to know where you at. And you got to be able to get to it. It's just, You know nobody got time to wait for you to get to stuff. You know what I'm saying? You got to hurry up and get to it. Appreciate you, Britton Meanie. Appreciate you subscribing. See we do it. But you just want to make it easier on yourself. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want to have to be panicking. And like I said, the drawbacks to the MIDI captain for me, the only reason I'm keeping it because I already got it. Ain't nothing else I can do with it there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use it instead of buying another, of the F10 foot switches, and that goes with the Graviton M1. I'm just gonna use the MIDI captain for the expressions, and use the other foot switch, the silver one, to control the different presets I have on here already. So, and that'll make my life easier. Not necessarily easier, less expensive. You know what I'm saying? Because ain't no point in having the MIDI captain and then just sitting it off in the corner. It's useful. It is useful. It's just harder to program. The screen is little. Like the screen, the reason I decided to go with the Luminite system from last week to this week is because when I was at the gig, it was so hard to see the screen on the MIDI captain. It's so little. And, that's not their fault. It has to be around that size. But, man, was it hard to see where I was. And when you got to memorize where sounds are on pages, you know what I'm saying? But you can't even see what page you on because the screen is so small. Then it's just a lot. So, I wanted to make that wireless, completely wireless. So it's running on battery, and it's matter of fact, charge it up, because I've been doing an experiment now on the rechargeable batteries. The MIDI captain actually gets about 8 hours, and that's a solid 8 hours I had it on, and it was. Still had battery to turn back on and all that stuff. I think it actually turned off from the lack of being used, as just an auto shut off type thing. But yeah, these little tools like this kind of make your life way better on stage. And nobody in the band got time to wait for you to tap dance. The audience doesn't have time to wait for you to tap dance on your pedal board and play around with sounds and stuff, unless that's part of the show. Because there's times where I do stuff like, let me see. And this where I may put this looper down on the floor as well, just because I like to control the looper with just my feet. But I want to, I like to do stuff like, let's That's not it. Where is it? That's not it. Here we go. Do stuff like this where I play around with loops a little bit, and I create another loop within the loop by starting and stopping, and get those clean breaks with the band. Just a split second of silence and music is fire. Break. But it also allows you to do like slight little remixes of it. You can let it roll. Stuff like that is good for drum solos and stuff like that. You know, you may want to do something like let's go to this part. Essentially creating hits for the drummer. You know, that's the other reason why I like it up here, because I can easily reach that volume switch like that. But, you know, little stuff like that kind of, you know, helps you, your creativity, and it helps your music, you know what I'm saying? Because now, while I'm using loops, I'm also creating variations of that loop without actually changing anything, but gives the drummer some space to solo in there very nicely without making it. It's like you just turn the loop and the band into hits, so it works out better that way. And typically, I would have laid down the bass part by now on that part, and be working that. So, yeah, I would highly recommend. You know, if you are a band leader or if you're a bassist that you know, of course, I don't have to use a keys rig all the time. So I like to have access, when I do have access to it easily. And, you know, if I want to play bass synths, I got the Future Impact right here. I got the MXR bass synth as well. You know. And I have the expression pedal down here. I always recommend the expression pedal with this pedal here. I wish they had some sort of MIDI in there. That would definitely help out a lot. And none of these are the stock presets. I don't do stock presets for the most part, except for on the Mercury X. The Mercury X came with some of the best, and Enzo X came with some of the best presets of any pedal I've ever played. So definitely showcased the pedals very well with the presets. And of course I can mix these. Pedal with and another little MXR bass synth tip. tracking wise, you want to change the tracking to a 4-string. You want to play, no lower than this B on your low E string. And you also want to change the triggering sensitivity. Then from there, on your bass, you want to roll off some of the bass frequencies, boost your high mids, and also use the expression pedal to multiply these presets and create multiple sounds within one preset. So I have this sound. Let me get myself right here. All right, but I also have a bass sound. I can mix the two sounds. And that's another way you can kind of like make the MXR bass synth. It has, what is that? 1, 2, usually 3 oscillators that you can work with at once. The sub oscillator, the unison oscillator, and then the upper octave oscillator. But if you mix it with the other preset, it's almost like you have 6 oscillators to work with. You just gotta kind of experiment with the mix there with the expression pedal. So like I have all my presets. I have all of them set up to have multiple sounds within one preset, because you only get 8 otherwise. But I love how I can morph between settings on that. So just, that instantly makes it a way better pedal, just having that expression input. So I highly recommend using the expression pedal with the MXR bass synth. Definitely would do you right. And this is just a simple chorus sound. Right. Whatever you want to do there. So, adding things like expression pedals, even though I don't really want to, to something like because I wish this had MIDI as well. I'm not going to lie. Future Impact is full MIDI. You can just do some amazing things. And it just, the sound quality is 10 toes down. Amazing. I don't even know why I'm touching that. Because I just got this yesterday, the Luminite system. So I'm hoping, durability. Fingers crossed. Let me see. So and you can set this up. You don't have to have this change one by one. You can have this change by I can have it skip 2s, 3s, 4, 5, 6, 10, however many I want with one foot switch, one foot tap. So it's not always +1 or plus minus with the preset changes, right? But what do we got? All right, future impact. Oh. See, and the main difference between the MXR bass synth, I'll give you my best patch on the MXR bass synth. And the closest I could actually get to Thriller on the MXR bass synth. So here's make sure that's the yep. Future impact. Tell me that's not spot on. It just don't have like the future impact literally replaces your need to even have a key bass rig separate at all, including if I wanted to play key bass right now with it. I don't have to change my rig or anything. All I have to do is come over here, change this, the future impact to synth, and then bam. Nope, got all these other pedals on, sorry. Oh. Where we at? Alright, so bam. Let's take this to take that off. You know, so I could easily just play it with keys or play it with my actual bass, which is just, you know, awesome. Like, who doesn't love that? The same sound. Come on. So, you know, you can just play it with your bass. Or actually, if you know how to play key bass, you can go ahead and play with key bass, but you don't have to take another rig like that if you don't want to. And if you want to take just a MIDI controller, you can tap into something like that. That's why I have something like, I have these, like that CME H4 MIDI Pro instead of this H2 MIDI Pro down there. So when I want to tap into the MIDI side, I have an extra port for the MIDI out and the MIDI in of different things, and I still have this hooked up wirelessly to the MIDI, the keyboard hooked up wirelessly to the MIDI as well. Only reason I don't have the actual iPad and stuff hooked up to the MIDI is because, I mean, the wireless MIDI, I have it wired to there because I don't want any additional latency. I noticed when I was running wireless to the core, and then from the core, so I have the WIDI master on the, which is this thing here, but I have another one down here on the Axiom 61, this MIDI controller. That's running to the MIDI core wirelessly underneath the board, and then having that run wirelessly to the iPad or to another WIDI master. From there, it creates, like, you got latency going in, and then you got latency coming out, and then that added together is too much. But it going one way is nothing. It going one way and then going through a wired connection only adds the latency of it going to it, and which is very low. These are very low latency things, you know what I'm saying? So I really, to the point I'm comfortable taking it with me. You know, no different than any other software. You know, you have a small amount of latency, but the latency is not from the iPad. It's actually from that slight little bit of very minuscule latency. When I say minimum, it's minimum. Like, I don't feel like I'm struggling to keep up with a metronome of the very responsive, even the key pressure. So, you know, it's very, I recommend these little WIDI masters things, you know, to go along with like your WIDI core that you would have to get for the H4 MIDI Pro, because it allows you to wireless access. Like, even if I wanted to take this screen and run it off of a different USB power supply or a different 9-volt, this runs on USB and 9-volt, I could easily do that. Take this, I might have this mounted somewhere else. If I do decide to keep this board up like this when I perform, which I'm really considering, I'll just keep it here, but I probably back it up so it's a little more protected. Or I might put these two pedals up here, put this right here where it's a little more protected in the middle, and just go from there. You know, the hard part is getting everything set up, and you know, you're gonna have to do some menu diving. You're gonna need the MIDI charts from the manuals. The MIDI charts will pretty much give you a list of all the MIDI commands, and from there, decide what you need to use and what you don't need to use, and then voila, you got a beautiful MIDI setup where you don't have to carry a heavy keyboard. And I still got extensive control over, you know, got good EP piano sounds from the iPad. I could just take the Enzo X, you know what I'm saying, or just take the board. Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, it took a while to set it up, but you know, like I said, the whole board is running on one power supply and one plug. You know, that's amazing. The Canvas Power 15, I definitely recommend that. And even the USB stuff, like I said, this this screen, this MIDI controller here, the M1, the Axiom, this MIDI controller, and the CME H4 MIDI Pro are all running on the Canvas Audio, in the Canvas Power 15, in addition to the 15 pedals that's already running. So, you know, that I recommend that power supply, and it runs very cool, you know, and it's very slim. Oh, I love it. I'm talking to you through it now. It's a great pedal. You know, it's got great EQ. You know, if you very useful EQ. If I wanted to high pass, I could easily do that. Easily, you know, high pass things. That way, if I want to add some bottom, got plenty of bottom. Plenty of bottom in there. Oh, yeah. And, for bass, I like it actually set up like this. Hate to mess up my settings, but whatever. I actually like to have it like this for bass. But this is a different setup, So this is the most versatile preamp that you could get like in pedal form. This works for vocals, bass, guitar, everything. So, and if you want to bypass the EQ, you just put them all there. And now you got all the tone. You can add more saturation, bring this down. If I wanted to get distorted, if I wanted to, add that distorted effect in there, I could too. So, definitely. And like I said, I like it so much, even on my ToneX ones, I have it running. I have tone models of this color box, so I can have stereo, like a stereo version of it using two ToneX pedals, ToneX ones. So great pedal, definitely worth the investment. I'd say if you really want to get serious about it, definitely check it out. So bring this down. So yeah, now we're back to normal. Let's get this in there. Nice clean signal. So it's a great preamp for a lot of different reasons, but check it out when you get a chance. I definitely love that Colorbox V2. And it's in the studio. It's amazing. And it adds nice firmness to your bass. And if you're interested and you have a ToneX 1 already, say you already got a ToneX 1, I have preset packs coming out, guys. So I have, with the new ToneX version 2 software, I guess modeling software out, I redid a lot of the packs, and I did double pack stuff with the ToneX. So the JHS color box in combination with other preamp pedals, like so for instance, the color box running into an Ampeg SGT, that's going to be one pack. Another pack's going to be the color box running into an Aguilar AG preamp in different configurations. And we also have things like the Benz Shuttle 9.0. So the color box V2 running into that Benz head, as well as running into the color box running into the Gensler Magellan head with their new Gensler's newer stuff. So, man, I definitely would say stay tuned for that stuff, and we're gonna be putting it out this week. Matter of fact, I'll have it out on Friday for you guys. So if you want some new pre-tone models for your ToneX 1, there will be some available on, as well as the individual packs will be updated as well. So just give me a few days and I'm going to start putting up version 2s of the, those preamp pedals, as well as the bass heads and stuff that I have. So definitely, if you haven't already, hit that like button and make sure you subscribe. Appreciate you subscribing, by the way. Thank you. And if you would like to, hit that super chats, Cash App, all that good stuff. Check out the Patreon for anything, any of my preset packs for various pedals that you see here. I'm going to come out with a Mercury X pack as well. If you have a Mercury X and you want some of my presets, that's going to be available. But I already have packs for the Future Impact V4 and VIP and the Enzo X. What else we got? The Zoom pedals, MS-60B plus, the MS-70 CDR plus, Zoom B6. All those preset packs are on the Patreon, as well as 11 different preamp packs currently available for the ToneX and pedals and software. So check all that stuff out when you get a chance. And if you want to help the channel out and you want a ToneX, check out the description. It's a link there. It definitely helps the channel out when you buy things through the links in the description. So I definitely appreciate y'all hanging out. You know, like I said, iPad definitely sounds good. Like this, and like I said, shout out to gospel musicians. They're also fellow YouTubers. They've been on YouTube and doing the YouTube lessons forever. You know, since I was in high school. So they've been on their game a long time. So let's go back here. Preset library. I want the brick mode. So now we can come and add some nice pads to this. So just crazy stuff you could. I'm not real big on well, I am big on pads and stuff, you know, but I'm not real big on getting completely away from EP and piano. I love having those textures in there and then having a lot of other things around that as well. You know, that's why I have the motif hooked up there to add those other textures. So when you just start piling on textures, that's 4 sounds from the motif, a piano, and the Enzo X, 2 different textures, you know, with that ring mod going crazy on that synth. And then also the layer of the Mercury X creating those crazy pads and holding them. So now that's just the Enzo X. The Mercury X. That's the Mercury X doing all this. This is one of my patches I call Negus Cosmic. Sounds like you're in outer space. Listen to the foolishness of the Mercury. That joint is crazy. That is amazing. And that's just the reverb battle. So, when you start combining these things together, you really get those huge textures. So now the motif's going to sustain because of the pads I have on there, the sounds I have on there, and the Mercury X is freezing that reverb. All of this at once. And all from one foot switch. So on stage, I can now take that sound. If I was normally before getting that sound from my studio here in my house to on stage was very difficult, especially getting from, on looping and trying to keep everything else in mind, the set list, all the parts and everything else. Getting to that type of sound would have meant I would have had to memorize this, and everything else I needed on or off, plus what I was doing on the keys and the motif as well. So all that together just becomes a lot, and it makes you not want to do it. It makes it less likely for you to do it. The more extra cables, the more hassle to set everything up, the less likely you are to really want to take it out the house. I learned that from heavy amps. That's why all my amp cabinets, I got 3 left. I had like 6 or 8 of them, but at one time in here. So, I got rid of a lot of them, but I have 3 left, and these all weigh under 40 pounds. The 212s, the 210s, and the 115 cab. All weigh under 40 pounds. Why? Because say I want to take a stereo rig, that's 80 pounds for both cabs. That's not a lot for both cabs. That's a lot if each one weighed 80 pounds. You see what I'm saying? There's a big difference. So same thing when it comes to this. I want the ease of use. I want it to be light. I want it to be fast to set up, fast to break down, more importantly. And I want it to work correctly and easily. You know what I'm saying? So that's where the MIDI in the setup, comes in handy, because it is an extra investment. The extra MIDI cables, I had to get the low profile cables, so when I'm putting it in the case and and for pedal board space, I could incorporate it. That was a cost. The actual units, like these hubs, these USB hubs that pretty much filter out certain messages and send routing and everything else, is done through something like this, like a H2 MIDI Pro, by CME, or H4 MIDI Pro in my case, that was an expense, plus the core, the WIDI core, to make it wireless. That was an expense, plus these WIDI masters and the WIDI jack. That's 3 different WIDI devices, and the actual MIDI cables that I actually needed, you know what I'm saying? So, it's an extra expense with the MIDI, and you still got to get the actual MIDI controllers. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. I recommend the Graviton M1 right now with the 10 switch, foot switch that's wireless. You'll be able to see effects. See what your presets are. You can name them. You can route your expression pedals through all your MIDI pedals and not have to take a bunch of expression pedals. Say you only wanted to take 2 expression pedals. This is perfect. You're going to be able to control multiple. If you wanted to control the Hog and the Enzo X with the same expression pedal, you could do that with the Graviton M1. So you don't need the foot switches, but you can actually do everything from here. It's touch screen. I can change all my presets to whatever I need them to be. What did I just do? Yeah, I'm just clicking around there, man. Mention us that. Yeah, show me the values. Bam. So, you can have them in stomp box mode as well, the presets. It's a lot you can do with this, incorporating just this. But when you incorporate this and the foot switches, it's going to make and you got enough MIDI pedals, it'll make your life easier. Easy. And you can also do things like if you wanted all of them to sync up with the same BPM and MIDI clock, you can do that as well. Like I can use this as the MIDI clock, and it'll tell all the other pedals what BPMs they should be at. I can do tap tempo from here and everything. So, or from the foot switches. The MIDI Captain, I would say, I would recommend this over the MIDI Captain a million times. You're going for the MIDI Captain about 160. This is like 150. This by itself is like 150, plus the foot switches are like another 90 for the 10. So, you're looking at 240 versus 160. For $100 more, you're going to get a better screen and more capabilities, and you're going to get a wireless foot switch that has a 6-month battery life without you recharging it up to 6 months. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? And you can still, if you want low latent, if you want, like say you wanted to run this foot switch for a looper, you run a TRS cable, like a standard expression pedal cable, TRS. You run that, a physical cable to the unit, to the M1, and that gives you instant, things for like tap tempo, things that are very time sensitive, like looping and things like that. So you can have this set up to control everything, including lights. Like you can have it set up for changing pages on your iPad. You can have it set up to changing displays on the background. Say you got a screen in your band or something and you got lights. You can have MIDI set up to control all of that, as well as in your computer. You can have it set up to control your backing tracks and everything else from this, or with your foot switches. You can set it up to control your DAW, like Logic. You can set it up to stop and start and do all that stuff with Logic, or you can set it up to trigger things to happen during a song in Logic. It's a ton of capabilities this thing has, and I'm blown away with the beautiful touchscreen. And don't worry, if the screen breaks, the new screen's only $20, and you can put it in yourself. That's crazy. That means they even thought about that. They said, oh, these screens, anything can happen to a screen, which is true, especially a touch screen. They can't make it but so durable. So they was like, bet, we'll sell the replacements for $20. That is not bad at all. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is a great for that company, for Luminite. We'll see how they go from here. I'll probably reach out, see if there's anything else they want me to review. I'll do a full review of this thing at some point, but I got to finish using it. So I love how I'm just just can change stuff, and I can not only just stuff, I can change anything that the individual pedals will allow me to, which is just I'm just blown away. But so yeah, I would recommend if you want to get a MIDI setup or get into MIDI, you can get you start with like a M1 and the foot switch, and you can actually run your entire MIDI setup from there. You don't have to have a H4 MIDI Pro unless you want to do all this extra stuff that I'm doing with your rig. Then it'd be pretty useful. But it also, like, don't forget this Graviton M1 also has wireless Bluetooth MIDI, so I can still run it to the computer and everything else. So you can run your whole MIDI setup through this and the foot switch. So but if you want to be able to filter out certain messages routing wise, and you need advanced MIDI routing, you're definitely going to need something like a CME H2 MIDI Pro or H4 MIDI Pro. So, yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. I love how the technology now is really allowing us to be musicians for real. Like, not, you got to fiddle around with a ton of stuff. Like, I could easily set up I was setting up presets so fast in this M1. Like, it was crazy compared to how much effort it'd take me on the MIDI Captain. The MIDI Captain only has that little scroll button. It scrolls in a circle, or you can press it and, as like an enter button, type thing. But that's all you got to work with, and then you got to, every line, if you want to get to a certain line, you got to scroll, press it, select the thing you want to change it, scroll, press it again, confirm that, go to the next thing you want to change. And it takes so much longer compared to on here. You can literally hold it, edit, you tap it, you added a parameter, bam. Now, if I want to add more parameters, I just press this plus. I just added 4 different parameters just that fast. And I can come here, CC message, PC message. I can have it count. I got everything I need. I can even have the different channels for the different pedals, different colors. So this white one, this gray color is the Hog 2. It's like gray silver color is the Hog 2. This red one is the Future Impact. Channel 3 is the Enzo X. Nice goldish color. And then channel 5 is the Mercury X. And I have that one blue. So in all, I have, for those 4 pedals, I have parameters right now that it'll change if I press it. Then I can even test them down here, set the clock on or off, MIDI clock on or off. I can set things to toggle. Oh, it's just crazy. Stomp box mode. Not to mention, you can add these little controllers to this, like that you can stick on your bass. They supposed to not mess up your finish. Can't vouch for that yet because I haven't gotten one, and I don't know if I'm going to get one. I prefer to do everything with my feet, not to have to touch anything with my hands. If I want to do it with my hand, I just press the screen. And if I primarily want to do everything with my feet so I don't have to ever break my stride while I'm playing. Like, I literally just have to press the foot switch or whatever the case. That's my goal. And if I'm playing keys or something I want to change, I want to just be able to press that or the foot switch. So, I think this is a really good. It is a learning curve to the M1, but all MIDI stuff is going to be a learning curve if you never use MIDI. Just like the synths, the Enzo X and the Future Impact V4 VIP and the bass synth, MXR bass synth, and the C4 synth, which I have a pack for as well on there, C4 synth. You it's a learning curve because you don't know what you're doing. Same way when you pick up a bass for the first time, you don't know what you're doing. You pick up a keyboard or sit down at a keyboard or a piano, you don't know what you're doing. Everything is a learning curve when you don't know what you're doing. It's not that the pedals aren't good, the keyboard or bass isn't good or guitar. You have to give yourself time to learn and take the proper steps to learn. That's why I said get in the manual for your pedals and learn what your pedals really can do. Stop buying new pedals all the time. I buy new pedals all the time because I know what I'm doing and I already can play. I spent years just playing, just working on my skills of, this and the musical, the knowledge side of music, you know, not just the skill, the knowledge side. Playing the physical part of music and the mental part of music. Two things you got to work on separately. But then I started to, explore sounds, and I took the time to really read the manuals and learn how to manipulate different pedals and get different sounds. And then from there, I really started to learn what I was doing. And when I got into synths recently, I just did the same thing. Learn what the oscillators do. Learn what the different waveforms sound like. Learn how to use the filters. What kind of filter, an envelope filter versus a LFO filter versus a sequence filter versus a random filter. All these are different things. You know what I'm saying? And then those LFOs, what shape does they sound like? A square LFO versus a sine LFO or a triangle LFO. Learning the different effects and how they affect your sound. Oh, do I want more of a rounder, bigger bottom to a sound, or do I want this peakier type of sound? A lot of that's affected by the resonance in the filter. So learning these little techniques and, pretty much just learning your gear. We all spend money on gear and we buy and sell gear, but learn it. Learn it. Like read the manual, learn some of the hidden features. Some of the things you didn't know it could do may be the reason why you keep it instead of selling it. So, really learn and study what your pedals can do. And if you want to get into simplifying your setup, start getting into pedals that have MIDI and have presets for you to manipulate that, you know what I'm saying, and things like that. So, all right, guys. I definitely appreciate y'all hanging out with me. It means the world to me, of course. Said that before. I'll say it again, and I'll say it again. Thank you to all the Patreon subscribers. You guys are amazing. Everybody that's bought presets on Patreon, thank you guys for supporting the channel. It means the world to me. And if you want to find my music, you can find it on allbasscreations.bandcamp. I did an entire album with just my bass and effects, no MIDI. Just bass and effects, and it sounds like a full album. Sounds like drums. Sounds like you got piano, keys, pads going, and it's all bass and effects. So check that out over there, as well as a few of my singles where I play bass, keys, and drums, things like that. It's all over there. And if you want to find me on any social media, at the Bass Negus, Negus. And if you want to keep up with everything I have going on, the best place to do that is going to be the Patreon. So, all right. Make sure y'all check out all these different stuff, products and stuff. If you check out any of these products, the Neo Soul keys, and hit up. Don't be shy to say the Bass Negus sent me. I like to support these different companies that making great products. Not just pushing out advertisement stuff, and it ain't really what they living up to the hype when you get it in your hands. Like all these companies and pedals that you see here live up to the hype in various ways. So definitely check them out. All right. This has been another episode of All Bass Creations, Effects, Tutorials, Demos, and Review. I am the Bass Negus. Find me on all social media. I'll holler at you later. Peace.